I did was I broke it down to the point where, it tells you what you do on day 0, day 1, day 2, and so forth. And a lot of the stuff came from me learning interesting things from OEMs and trial and error. As I stated before, I got into process when I worked in AutoNation as a salesperson, because it was the first time I went into a dealership, and I'd been selling cars for 2 years at the time. First time I went to a dealership and they said, "This is our process map. This is what you do." And it was drawn out process map of what gets done on day 1, day 5, what gets sent out. Email templates were in there. It was very simple to use. So I got into that and I was like, all right, this is cool. When I left there to start building internet departments, I was still fairly green at this, but now I had a basis of how I wanted to process. Fast forward a couple of years later, I was internet director, and for those of you that might have been with Honda a long time, and you guys know what new, your father will remember this actually. Honda Excel Facilitator. I don't know if you know that you guys had one probably at some point a couple of years ago. Honda got out of it. I was at a dealership, and part of my job was to be a BDC manager, sales manager, and I was also the Excel Facilitator. And what the Excel Facilitator does, and some of you might have that kind of role in your dealerships because it's something that the manufacturer requires, this person's job is to literally put together a process for the dealership. For instance, Ford Blue Oval. They probably have certain guidelines for you to get that Blue Oval certification to be like Dealer of the Year. Subaru's got Stellar Performer, Honda's got President's Award, Toyota's got Signature. Okay, so you have to hit certain benchmarks. And part of it is your facility. You have an upgraded facility. But what's important about that role in the dealership is that person's role is to keep all the process books intact. So basically, you'd have a process map of what happens in the sales department. Customer comes in, how do you greet them? Go through the whole road to the sale process. Then it goes process for entering the finance office. How do you transition from sales to finance? Then it was how do you deliver the car from finance? How do you follow up with the car afterwards? Then we had one for service. Then we had one for parts. I literally had stacks and stacks of books, and I even had a consultant from a company come in to help me build this stuff up. The dealership at the time did not get validated. They lost validation. They had a newer facility, but they needed a bunch of help. And so they decided, on top of the two big things I was doing, which was running a BDC and desking deals and TOing for sales managers when they didn't want to TO deals, I was also now the facilitator. So I had a really stacked job, and that made me more, we're saying about 2007, 2008, that made me process-oriented. So everything you see me do, I always update it. It's all about process, process, process. That taught me that without a process, you're not going to get anywhere in the store. You need to just have a clear outline description of what you're doing and the road to it. So